Eskom's Medupi Power Plant, that's the project which has now been completed, marking the end of the over 122 billion rand project later. Well, the last of 6 generation units of the Medupi Power Station project in Lephalale attained commercial operation status and was handed over to the generation division. Now, the first unit attained commercial operation status back in August of 2015. Over the next 6 years, 4 other units were built successfully. Now, the Medupi project began back in 2007 and it is expected to have a life expectancy of 50 years. Eskom's spokesperson Sikonathi Mantshantsha says Medupi Power Station has already started contributing to the national grid.
Every unit that comes online to generate electricity helps reduce the occurrence of load shedding. I must state, Ayanda, that since 2019, late 2019, this unit has been contributing intermittently to the national grid. So the profile really does not change that much in that respect. But what we now know is that Medupi is complete and will officially and consistently deliver the 794 megawatts of electricity to the grid.
Well, let's get some analysis now and what this could all mean for energy supply in the country. We speak to energy expert Chris Yelland, who joins us from Johannesburg. Chris, very good morning to you. Always a pleasure talking to you. So, at the end of it all, when I heard this news, and I'm a consumer just as you are and many other South Africans of the power, electricity from Eskom, the completion of Medupi Power Plant, what will it mean for load shedding, for starters?
Look, firstly, I must caution everybody that Medupi is not complete yet. Despite the
there you go,
PR,
bursting our bubble, Chris.
Despite the PR spin, Medupi is not complete yet. But of course, all progress is to be welcomed. And this progress of reaching commercial operation by unit number 1 at Medupi is of course welcomed, and it will make a difference to load shedding. But I think we must acknowledge, and it should be acknowledged, that none of these units at Medupi are performing as they should be performing. They are not delivering full output in the sense of their energy availability factor is significantly lower than what it was planned to be and what it is designed to be. There are design and execution faults that have not yet been corrected. And if Eskom Capital Projects, as the effective engineering, procurement, construction and project management entity, had been completely independent from the customer, which is Eskom Generation, perhaps these units would not be handed over by now. But there is a conflict of interest. The person who's responsible for engineering, procurement, construction and project management is the same company who is the customer. And therefore things get handed over perhaps before they should be in order to meet deadlines that have been internally set as well.
You've got to explain that last bit there, Chris. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You've got to explain that last bit. The very people who are the contractors are in turn the customers. What do you mean there, and who exactly are we talking about?
Let me try and explain. On a big project, it is very normal and typical for what is known as an EPC to be appointed. This is an organization that is independent of the customer, that is responsible for engineering and design and procurement of all the different projects and the construction, coordination, commissioning and integration of a whole range of different contracts. And an EPC puts this all together, takes responsibility for it, and undertakes the project management. Now, to save money, Eskom decided that it itself would be the EPC. And it would undertake the engineering, design, coordination, and systems integration of the entire project. And of course, at the same time, by the way, that is handled by a part of Eskom called Eskom Capital Projects. Then, of course, you have the ultimate customer, which is Eskom Generation. Now, the problem is that these two organizations are both divisions of Eskom, so they're not independent. And so whilst if they were independent, Eskom Generation would be extremely reluctant to accept handover of a project that is not fully completed, that has still got a design work to be rectified, rework to be done, and so what is happening here is because of this incestuous relationship between Eskom Capital Projects and Eskom Generation, the units get handed over in an effort to ensure that completion dates are met, at least in theory. But in practice, the job is not done yet. There is rework still to be done, rectification work. And I must also add at this point, there are very, very significant issues around pollution at Eskom, at Eskom Medupi, that have not been met. And probably will never. The pollution standards of South Africa, the law of South Africa, is likely never to be met by Medupi Power Station if you were to look at their current applications for exemption from the law.
Yeah. Chris, to talk simply then to the viewer and myself, because it's all very confusing right now, what you have just explained. If you were to put it in very simple language, what is all this statement about then, that Medupi Power Station is complete and it's been handed over to the generation unit of Eskom? What is this whole exercise about?
Well, of course, it is about public relations. Of course, there is pressure internally to hand over not quite completed units from Medupi to Eskom Generation for commercial operations so that it can help alleviate the power shortages in South Africa. But the reality is that these units are not performing as they should, as they were designed to perform, and there's still a lot of work still to be done in order to get them to that state, if they ever can be got to that state.
My goodness. And so the design defects, I mean, if you're going to tell us that the work is complete, we're now handing over to generation because the expectation is that the power station ought to produce now at commercial level. If the design defects are not complete, why are you trying to fool the public?
Well, as I say, there's a lot of pressure that these units be put into commercial service to help alleviate load shedding. But the reality is they're not complete yet. They're not performing as they were designed to perform. There's still work to be done to rectify these design faults and these execution faults. But the pressure of production is trumping all other considerations.
Chris Yelland, thank you very much for putting all of that to perspective. Well, we probably will have to get Sikonathi Mantshantsha back here to explain exactly. And if we do get him, actually, I will have to play back some of what Chris Yelland is telling us here so that he can put it all into perspective for us. What are they trying to do here?